I'm Brian Van, SportbikeTrackYour.com, and today we're going to break down the New Rage Cycles Fender Eliminator install on our 2018 Suzuki GSX-R1000 STG project bike. Okay, let's open up by showing you the signals. Right now we're going to talk about the flash rate. Okay, this is a little quicker than the OE flash rate. That is correctable, okay? New Rage offers some dual load equalizers. We have those on the site. We're going to do a follow-up video installing those, showing you how to slow this flash rate down. Okay, we'll have that out later this week. If you're cool with it, just leave it alone. You'll be done. It looks great. This is really tucked up in there nicely. All their stuff is plug and play. The turn signals both have factory connectors on the end that plug right in. The plate light also factory connector right on that, plugs right in. The reason they flash a little faster is the LEDs, they don't generate the same electrical draw or load that the incandescent lights that came stock on the bike do. Okay, so the flasher sees a different load and it flashes faster. It's basically like if you have one of the lights out, you'll have a faster flash rate. That kind of indicates you have a light out. Some people don't care. Some people want the flash rate slower. We'll show you how to do that, like I said, in a follow-up video. The installation of this, we're going to show you every single step, is really pretty straightforward. Suzuki did a great job with the OE bodywork on this. We're going to show you how to take the tail apart to get this installed. The tools that you need: 4mm T-handle, 5mm T-handle. You need a 25 Torx bit up there, 10mm socket, flat bladed screwdriver, some real basic hand tools, and I think most people are going to have that in their kit to be able to get this done. It's important to note as well with this, okay, every area is different, regulations, restrictions, and you know the way police look at motorcycles. This is pretty tucked up in there. So if you know you're in a community where they're like, man, that thing needs to be like way out here, or they're not going to be super pumped about it, just think about that before you put it on. Realistically, most places, because this does have a real good plate light on it, you're typically not going to have any issues at all. If you like what you see and you want to install this on your bike, stay tuned. Video Steve's going to show you every step of the way what it takes to get this New Rage Fender Lim installed on the STG GSX-R. Okay, now removing the tail. Let's take a look at this trim piece here. Couple of clips here to release those. Little flat blade underneath. Okay, we do have the key cylinder in there too. Let's see if we can get the sides of the tail off without pulling that key cylinder. We have multiple fasteners, 4mm internal hex. Once again, I'm gonna say it's good looking hardware on this bike, man. I like that. Try to keep track of each fastener you pull out, where it came from, to make sure that you're putting the right stuff back in the right places, okay? Especially the fasteners that have a shoulder. What you don't want to do is be clamping down on the OE plastics using a fastener that should be shouldered with one that is not. Bumpers for the passenger seat back here. It's a 5mm internal hex, rubber grommet, and there's a top hat spacer, it looks like, in there. And it appears that you'll be able to pull the sides of the tail off just by removing that clip, and then of course the fasteners. Mirror image from the other side. Like so. Okay, now we're going to come underneath the tail. A couple of clips here. Same thing we showed you on the top. Just lift up here in the center. That'll disengage it. And We'll do the same on the other side. Okay, right here, there is a push pin and a rubber grommet. I'm going to pull out on that to disengage it. Same deal here on the other side. Okay. Now let's kind of wiggle this around a little bit and see what we're left with. It does look like from here, I'm going to be able to slide this off, basically slid it back and lift it up just a bit, like so. And you can see, if you look at this tail, and definitely be careful back here, there's two Phillips screws that are holding this little panel into these sides. Even though they do clip in right here, the best way to remove this is going to be the way that I just did. Lightly spread it apart and then slide it back. Okay, now to remove the rear fender itself. We've got a wiring harness strap right here. This is reusable. Just pushing on that tab, it's going to allow that to be reused. This will release the harness for the tail light as well as the turn signals and the license plate light. We'll determine which connectors are which as we go through the process of removing the fender. Now, this is supported and held on to the subframe by 4 bolts, 10 mil hex head. You can use a ratchet, a wrench, whatever works best for you. I'm going to use an air ratchet to just make this move a little quicker for us. Pay attention to what was there. Shouldered bolts. Save all your OE stuff. Even if you're doing your Fender Elim, save all your stuff if you're not reusing these. And then just kind of let that rest on the rear tire now. Phillips screwdriver. You'll see that on each side of the subframe, we have a Phillips screw, just holding part of the undertail to the subframe. Going to remove each of these. They're identical. Steve's going to try and bring the camera over here to show you. Just going to allow it to flop down just a little bit more for me. Now, as I rotate this out right here, okay, there is a Phillips screw right here in the center. He's literally, we're like fighting. Camera or screwdriver? I won. Okay, let's go ahead and take this one off. There is a clip up front I'm going to show you here. I'm going to point to it right here. So you have to slide back, okay, and that's going to release it from the OE undertail. Now, let's take a look at the harnesses. The larger one is for our tail light. The other two are going to be for the turn signals, and then of course the license plate light. So we'll go ahead and release all those. It's a new style connector, I've not seen that. Lift up like this, right here, and then pull back. It's a pretty cool connector. One for the plate light's kind of taped in here a little bit. Looks like it has a different release too. I pushed down on that right here, allowed that to slide right out. Now make sure you're still holding onto the tail, or I'm sorry, the rear fender, and we're going to feed all the wires. Man, that thing's heavy too. And there you go. That's how you remove your OE rear fender on this bike. Okay, for the Suzuki New Rage offers instructions, you can go to our site, print these right off. Got color pictures. These are definitely helpful. Okay, so do that so you have those for reference. Now, jumping right into the install. What I want you to do is let's get all the pieces laid out nicely. We've got the hardware that they've supplied here. We're going to reuse these 2 bolts that held on the stock rear fender, okay? You've got your turn signals here, the plate holder with license plate light here, mounting bracket that bolts to the bike, and then you have a cover that is going to hide all of that exposed ugliness right there. They also include a couple of cable ties so you can really tidy up the wiring as you do the install. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is install this well nut they've supplied. It's going to go in the hole right here in that OE undertail. Tried to push it in from this direction. It's not going to happen. Just can't distort the metal insert enough to get it past. So what we're going to do is pull this down a bit. I've unplugged the tail light as well as the turn signals just to get me a little more movement downward with this OE undertail. It's going to help me see what the hell I'm doing here and get this pushed through. I'm using a screwdriver to help me tuck the well nut down in through the hole. Okay, like so. Next, we'll mount up the bracket. Okay, now we're going to install this bracket on the bike. To do that, we'll use two of the OE fasteners that held on the stock rear tail, all right, the rear fender. They're shouldered. They have a little blue Loctite on them. They've included two spacers that will be sandwiched between this bracket and the subframe of the bike. Right here in that position is where it's going to mount. We're going to go fastener, bracket, spacer to the the subframe. Do this on both sides. It's really important too when we snug these fasteners, we make sure that the spacer they've included is not trapped between the shoulder of the bolt and the subframe. You want it to be with the shoulder inside the hole on that spacer. Same gig here as the other side. Trying to stick in the wrong hole, man. Okay, we got that. Now we're going to use a T-handle with a 10mm socket. I'm going to run these down just a little bit. Do that on both sides, and then I'll make sure that those spacers are positioned correctly on top of that shoulder. There we go. Okay, come over to the other side. Like so. Put final torque on that. Okay, now we're going to take this supplied fastener and install this panel by running this fastener into that well nut that we've installed. That is a Torx bit, T25. Okay, didn't run that down all the way, we've got it just finger tight. Okay, now it's time for the license plate bracket with the license plate light, also LED, and then of course the turn signals. This mounts flush against the bike. We're then going to put the supplied spacers in between the plate bracket and the turn signals, and then slip this fastener, also supplied, through each piece and bolt it down to the bike. Okay, the easiest way to do this is just get everything mocked up and then bring it up to the bike in the same order that I described. Okay, and let's get the fastener started. Okay, now let's deal with the wiring. I'm going to slide back this protective covering just a little bit here on the turn signals. Try and hide that red and black. Okay, and then you can route everything up in through the undertail. And let's look for the cleanest way to do this. I mean, obviously you want this end result to be just really tidy. I'm going to pass the turn signal harnesses through the backside of that bracket we mounted to the bottom of the subframe right here. Okay. Like so, and the reason I slid that covering back is, I just really want to hide the wires, the black and the red back there. I don't want to see any of that. And from here, bring all this up over there. All right, that works for me. The plate light, we can probably do that too. Get that behind that bracket. I want to try and have as much of the wiring hidden as possible when we put the tail back together. Okay, start plugging some stuff in here, like so. The turn signals, we're going to want to take a second to determine which one is which side. So you want to do that now. I've already got my left signal turned on, and I'm pretty sure that it is this one here. That should be the right side. Like so, let's double check that. Okay. Now let's really focus on these harnesses. Now we're going to get some cable ties out and begin to secure this stuff. Got a pair of side cutters over here already so we can trim the tails off. We installed this stuff first on that R6 project bike that we did for one of our local customers, Ryan. And I gotta tell you, it's been a really big hit ever since. We've got a couple more installs coming for their products shortly after we do the one here for the Suzuki 1000. And yeah, my expectations are this stuff is just gonna keep on chugging because it's a pretty fresh, new look. With this GSX-R 1000, we're still need to figure out those front signals. It's got the gorgeous OEM stalks on there. There's a few options that I've seen out there, and we're going to continue to look and probably try a couple of different things, which we will of course share with you all as we get the installs done. Okay, now take stock. This is a reusable cable tie that Suzuki had installed on the bike back here. I took it off during the removal. I reused that. All good measure. Use another one of the supplied cable ties that New Rage sent with the kit. Of course, we're going to take the side cutters, just trim the tails off the cable ties that we used, like so. And now we're ready to take the tail and put it back on the bike. Okay, when we reinstall the tail, it's all one piece, right? You can flex it a little bit, you want to be careful with it. Mounting points, here, 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 and then the tongue that comes off the tail light itself. You want to make sure that you get all that secured properly. Easiest way to do this is slide the tail section over, like so. You got to spread it apart just a little bit. Begin to dip it into position back here. These tangs on the side, start getting those lined up, okay? It's kind of a one side at a time approach here. I got that side to go. Come back here. Get this other side dialed in. Like so. Slide forward. And let's double check our work, make sure both sides are good and secured. Once you have slid that forward enough, on either side of the tail section, okay, remember we have those push pins that go into the rubber grommets right here. One on each side, look in there, you can see it. Just give that a little push, it's gonna slide in. Other side, pull in, those are now locked in place. All right, underneath, install these factory clips back in. Slide them in place, push in. There are two on either side. Stuff's all reusable. Okay, now go ahead and snug up the hardware for the Fender Eliminator itself. Remember, that's just going into a well nut, so we don't need to get crazy on the torque here. That right there will be adequate. Got a 4 T-handle here. We'll run them both down and then I'll put some torque to them. Like so. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and put the plate on now real quick. The way they've designed this, you know, it's kind of universal. You see the slots here. Every plate is gonna be shaped a little bit differently. That's just how it is, right? So you may be able to use 4 bolts to hold your plate depending upon the shape, you know, or you may only be able to get 2 in there. It looks like with our Michigan plate, the shape and size of it, we're only gonna be able to get 2. It's not a problem. It's gonna be more than enough to hold the plate. To do this, I probably could have put this on the bracket before I put it all up in there, but we're just gonna go ahead and show you how to do it now. Just using a pair of needle nose pliers to hold the nut on the back side. Pretty simple stuff. I think it looks a little cleaner with the fastener on the outside and the nut on the inside. Just go ahead and get your stuff all lined up, just like that. Could be smarter than me and put this all together before you get it all up on the bike, but that's really not that much of an inconvenience. And once I get this started on both sides, we'll go ahead and torque down the plate itself. Make sure it's all square, looks really good. You want your install to be as clean as possible. Just gonna kind of slide the stuff around until I feel like I've got it nice and even. The nuts they've supplied have a locking device on the back side. It's gonna help us run them down. Kind of hold it. And man, you can see that final result, that is really tucked up in there. Okay, before we go any further, let's double check everything. Right, let's make sure we got our signals jamming. Right signal. Notice we do have a little faster than OE flash. We'll talk about that later. Left side, good to go. License plate light is on. Now we can go ahead and lower the bike a bit and put the remaining body panels back on. Okay, let's go ahead and just get this tail button back up. Slide that trim panel under there like so. On the other side, same gig. Just gonna pop right in there. Put the fasteners back in place. These shouldered bolts, you always want to make sure that the shoulder is not pinched the bodywork between the mounting surface and the shoulder, because that will absolutely damage it. Okay, and you do not want to do that. And then we have these right here, one on each side. Sometimes when you have tight access like that, you can use the tool itself to get it started. You do want to be aware of the additional leverage that you do have, and that it's possible. It's a lot easier to start it cross-threaded, and you definitely do not want to do that. Grab the seat, side trim. Okay, next up is the seat. Make sure these tabs go through the slots here in the back. Lift up to verify, and go ahead and let it drop into position. Take your two seat fasteners, 5mm internal hex. Run those down, and then all we have left is the passenger seat pylon and the side trim. Okay, the side trim. Push pin here, 2 grommets on the tail section of the bike. This little Velcro patch here lines up with that. Clip, fastener right here. The easiest way to put this on is just kind of slide it up in there, slide it up here in the front as well. Okay, and then I want you to put a little upward pressure on it and kind of slide it back, and now notice how that jumped up in there. Now the clip is in position. Push the 2 pins into the grommets, and now this Velcro, you can actually hear that. And that stuff locks in there really tight. Last piece, fastener. Same thing on both sides. You want to make sure you have this trim installed correctly so you do not lose it while you're riding. Okay, there you have it. There is our new Rage Cycles GSX-R1000 17 and up Fender Eliminator install, okay? If you have any questions or comments, just leave those on the YouTube channel. I answer all that stuff. Any technical questions, I can help you through it. Questions with the install, I can help you through that too. All in all, I think it looks good. They did a nice job with this. I really dig the LED turn signals, how they have that machined in there inside the plastic. I think it looks really bitchin'. And this is certainly tucked up in there with really clean lines.